Welcome to Grow With Me, a podcast and creative project from Garza Consulting. I'm Lisette Garza, an ICF certified coach and an organizational development consultant who works with thoughtful leaders, creatives, and change makers, especially those standing at a crossroads asking deeper questions about who they are, how they show up in the world, maybe even rethinking their sense of purpose. Each episode is a short coaching session between two people who are meeting for the first time and working together in the moment to explore a question or a challenge. Whether you're listening, learning, or imagining yourself in the guest seat, you are a part of this, and I'm glad you're here. Welcome back to Grow With Me. In today's episode, we talk about the pursuit of doing something you believe in while experiencing the tension between exhilaration and exhaustion. Allyson, our guest today, shares what it's like to build a business while also working in a full-time role. She brings in her vulnerability and speaks openly about the journey that has brought her here and the self-doubt she struggles with. Together, we talk about growing through the discomfort as she stays the course. Thanks for listening. Let's grow. What would feel the most meaningful to walk away with at the end of this conversation?
I think just gaining perspective and maybe exhilaration or like confidence in continuing to just be vulnerable and put myself out there. I would say that would be meaningful.
Yeah. Exhilaration, confidence, and being vulnerable and putting yourself out there. Okay. That word, exhilaration, really caught my attention. No one's ever used it, this early on or at all in coaching conversations. So let me ask you that: how does exhilaration feel in your body?
I think it's energizing. It's just like feels like purpose. Feels like kind of continuing to maintain momentum through disappointment. I think about that. Like that to me is what exhilaration means.
Why is that feeling of exhilaration important to you?
It's important for me because and I've shared this with you too, right? Like I have started my own business, and I think with my own business, it's come with a set of initial expectations, disappointment, um, and I found that my purpose has not changed with it, but my exhilaration and confidence and momentum sometimes feels like it ebbs and flows. And I don't know if that's part of it or if it's um, something I'm doing that I should not be doing.
So this ebbing and flowing of your confidence and momentum and exhilaration, you're questioning whether or not it's something you're supposed to be feeling.
Yeah, it's just I I feel like constantly with kind of venturing off into this new world that I've never been a part of. Um, it's kind of like, do I belong in this space? Um, I am very passionate about what I'm in it for, but then it still is like, is this the avenue? Is this the most appropriate avenue to be taking? I think when I started my business, I had really high expectations, and I've learned that those expectations needed to be lowered ultimately. Um, but it is very, at times, it's kind of like not letting the disappointment take over.
Mm. Hmm.
Mhm.
And just to clarify, what is this avenue that you're taking and questioning?
Um, so just for some background, because I have a business with one-on-one coaching for health and nutrition, and something I've always been passionate about, um, for a number of reasons, for my own personal experience as well. But then changing my like tweaking my experience to now be into a coaching role and for other clients and then the business aspect of it. That's kind of the questioning part of, is this is this the right path for it? Is there another avenue? Is there a better way to do it? Um, yeah, I don't know. All of the stuff that comes with it that requires vulnerability too. I have a full-time job, so part of me is like,
Mm.
it feels really safe to just stay in the space in which I've always been and not go out of that box, like not branch out of the box that I'm in right now.
Can I ask you why you decided to do so?
Why I decided to branch out of the box
Mm-hmm.
already. Um, it was like an internal drive. Genuinely, it felt like I was pretty burnt out from my full-time position in like around 2020, the pandemic. And I was just, it was a challenge. I do probation. So it was kind of this like, I want to work with people who want to work with me. That was kind of the biggest thought I had. Like, I'm sick of working with people who are forced to work with me. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy that work. It's just, as you can imagine,
Mm-hmm.
people don't want to be in front of you. Like, that's not a fun thing for them. And so I was just really, really burnt out. It felt like it it feels like when you make changes with one person, you get 10 more who are struggling just as much and unwilling to change. So it's a can be a tough job. Um, but then I was also battling my own kind of disordered eating, and I had really taken a shift in my mindset. So it was kind of combining what I'm really passionate about and the good aspects of the work that I do in probation, where it's coaching people and helping people, but also working with folks who want to work with me. They're signing on with me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they're forced to sit in front of me. Um, and it was kind of just a question mark of, I'm going to keep walking down this path and just see where it takes me. Mhm.
The path being the branching out.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So I think this has been a few years now, and every so often I have these questions of, do I need, like, when do I stop walking down this path? Like, when is it time to be like, okay, I tried, it didn't work. I'm going to go back to doing what I was doing. Because a benefit now also in my full-time position is I'm no longer in a 100% case management role. So I have a position now that has allowed me to drop some of the challenges and of that job. Like, I still do some case management, but it's small enough that it's rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like all that I'm doing. So I'm also in just a different space in my full-time work that I used to be. Um, yeah.
So you're saying that when you started your business, you felt compelled to do so because there was maybe you weren't feeling 100% fulfilled by your full-time role, and
Mhm.
but now this role has evolved and it seems to be in a better position for you currently.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so now you're questioning whether or not you want to continue your business.
Yeah. Ultimately, you're kind of like, is there a time where I'm gonna kind of know when will I know when it's time to kind of pull that plug?
Mhm.
Or do I just, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, I still like 10 being not willing to give it up, right? I would say I'm at an 8. So
Hmm.
I'm certainly like still in a space where I want to continue to be in it, but it's just it's kind of like that devil on your shoulder, so to speak, kind of questioning things
Mhm.
all the time. And that's exhausting. It's like, hey, take the easy way out. I'm right here. Like, you can do that. And it's like, how long do I ignore it? You know?
Right. Right.
Hmm.
I love the visual of the devil on your shoulder.
Yeah.
What do you think they're trying to do, this devil on your shoulder? What purpose do you think they are serving?
I think it's putting me back in my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know one thing when I started kind of healing my relationship with food, one of the things I was very active in doing was, so I always had this belief system that if I was in a certain body size, that's what would give me confidence. And so when I started kind of dismantling some of that belief system, I really focused on, like, if you have an opportunity to cross your desk and it's something you want to say no to because it scares you, you're saying yes to it. Like, don't even give yourself a
Mm-hmm.
chance to talk yourself out of it. You're just going to say yes. Um, and that was really transformative. That was probably one of the best things I had ever done. So it's kind of like I've lived in vulnerability for the last 5.5 years, and it's exhausting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I've done it both in my full-time work, and then I've kind of continued to do it in my business. And it's just like the thought of being back into comfort and being in a space where I know what I know, and I don't need to like constantly be learning, but I'm a learner. So I like it. But you know what I'm saying, where it's just like that, like, comfort
Mm-hmm.
in not having to keep being, like, putting yourself out there.
How does comfort feel to you in your body?
Calm, I would say, like even heart rate, um, no worries or anxieties or, negative thoughts that I have to have going through my head.
So when you talk about the devil on your shoulder, kind of looking out for your level of comfort, that's where they want you to be. This like calm, even heart rate, no worries.
Yeah, I think, yeah, just being in that space of like some freedom from the hard work of it too,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not if I'm not working full time, it's like my thoughts are constantly um in this other realm. But I also don't, like, even as I say this though, I'm like, I don't know if I gave it up. I don't think my thoughts would stop about it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because it's just so I don't know if it would just really end for me um entirely, even if I were to. And maybe that's when I know it's over, right? Is when I stop being passionate about it, or when I stop kind of questioning, is it like when it stops being worth it, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
So are you saying that like even if you were in that comfort level, regardless of the situation, and this is how I understood it, even if you were at that comfort level, um, that you would find something else,
No, I
or it
think I would
wouldn't
still just,
stop.
yeah, like when I feel like it would be like still tugging at me,
Oh,
because it
gotcha,
was
gotcha.
something that was so, like,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I keep thinking about is simply like changing my relationship with food was so incredibly transformative for myself. And I remember all of like the thought patterns I was having at that time. And what really drives me now is simply like, I want to give that same thing to other people. Like, I want other women to know it doesn't have to be like this. Like, it doesn't have to be so hard, and really just help others kind of see what they're doing and how it can impact them. Because I think about, like, what would have I needed
Mm-hmm.
6 years ago? And that's like what I want to be giving. And so I don't know if that'll ever really go away. Um, Truly and genuinely, just because it was something that was very impactful for me. Um, I don't know, maybe it's the business side of it, like
Mm-hmm.
not being a business savvy person, not being a somebody who's like the kind of, here are my cards that I'm laying on the table. pick them up if you want them. If you don't, right? Like I don't know. I'm not a salesperson, you
Hmm.
know? Um,
So you're really passionate about this. You feel like you want to serve others in a space that is much needed. Serve other women because of your personal experiences.
mhm.
So you're kind of driven by that passion, but then you just described like the business part, maybe the sales part is what maybe you feel you're challenged by.
Mhm. Yeah.
Maybe let's explore what is currently the ratio that you have
Yeah.
right now in terms of business versus the doing of the
Yeah.
coaching.
So it's 80% kind of the business side of it, and then 20% of the coaching part of it.
Yeah.
Um, and that feels like building things, because it was 2023 when I started. So I try to recognize like every year I'm doing things a little bit better than I did previously. Um, but it still feels heavy on the 80%,
Hmm.
the business things, the things that aren't super fun.
Right.
um, yeah.
Earlier, when we were just establishing, the goal for our conversation, something that I've sort of keep going back to in my head is you said I don't want disappointment to take over, something along those
Hmm.
lines. When you were
Hmm.
talking about yeah, not letting disappointment take over. And this was around the time where you were talking about, is this the most appropriate thing? Do I belong in this space? Um, and then you talked about not wanting to let disappointment take you over. And then we went into, what you had to do to start your business, right? Um, tweaking your approach into maybe a more coaching one, and then
Hmm.
the business aspect of it. So this disappointment, can you give me an example of a disappointment in your business that you feel took over you in the moment?
Would say, well, certainly like when it started,
Okay.
um, just I don't know, like lack of individuals reaching out. But see, even as I say that, I think to myself, like, I'm looking at it with hindsight, right? And that was something in the moment where I think I had expectations that were a little bit too high, because when I've been in a full-time position as a probation officer for almost 15 years, like my identity is that, right? So if I'm trying to shift my identity to a health and wellness space, like that's going to take time for people I know. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I even look at it back with hindsight now, where it's it's an entire identity shift for not only myself but for others who see me. Um, so it's understandable why those things didn't happen, but certainly in the moment it was really like internalize, like, is
Hmm.
it me? What am I doing wrong? All those things. So it was just very, I don't know. It just was like gut wrenching a little bit.
That was 2023.
Hmm.
Um,
I'd say all of 2024 too.
two,
Like it
2
wasn't just a
years.
moment.
It is.
It was
I
kind of
understand that.
yeah, it was a dip up and down for sure.
Yes.
Hmm.
I mean, especially like when you're starting something new, you imagine like those that roller coaster comes with the
Yeah.
territory. So
Hmm.
this disappointment of your, expectations, and then realizing that that it was a whole process to shift your
Hmm.
identity. And so 2025, what is that like now in terms of your identity as, as a practitioner that you want to be in your business?
Um, it's a lot better. Like I think about, my imposter syndrome when I first
Mhm.
started was really bad. Now it's not nearly as bad. I would say kind of putting again that on that like scale of 1 to 10, if my imposter syndrome was at like a 10 in 2023, I would say we're at like a 4 or a 5 now. Um, and that's due to just kind of continuously putting myself out there and talking about things. So I've gotten a lot better with that. I would say even with kind of moments of disappointment or
Mhm.
moments of feeling like, am I even supposed to be doing this? Back then were weekly, and
Mhm.
now it's just kind of, I'd say maybe monthly, every other month, just kind of like, what am I doing? Do I feel like I have direction? So even that's kind of on like a positive curve that it's reducing, but it still exists and maybe always exists. I don't know.
Mm.
But
These more recent moments of disappointment, can you recall one instance um, where you felt disappointed? What happened? How did that feel?
mhm. Trying to think. I would say it's like when there are inquiries without follow through. And again, that's something where I go back to like, on one hand, there are a million different things.
Mhm.
Like that's not a me thing, right? But then on the other hand, my brain goes, it's a you thing. So it's kind of balancing like it's the rational side of me and then the irrational side
Mhm.
where I know that that's not the case, but it is still like what am I doing? Like is there something I could be doing better? Um that this is happening.
Yeah. And you've talked about before about internalizing things.
Mhm.
And these more recent moments, right, when a person doesn't follow up or follow through, um, in more recent moments, how have you overcome that? That maybe was a dip. And so what helped you get back up?
Mhm. Um I think it's been reminding myself of like the small improvements. And also making sure I'm practicing what I'm preaching, right? Like if I'm like encouraging folks to do small things and, improve habits in small ways, I have to do that for myself too. So I try to just kind of go back to, you might not be here, but you're not where you used to be.
Mhm.
So again, kind of just reminding myself, you've taken steps forward, you know? Um, yeah, that's how I kind of counteracted that.
Does it help?
Yeah, it does. hmm It does help. And once again, like maybe this is something that is thing that exists and will always exist. And it's just like, I will just have to get better at kind of using those replacement thoughts, so to speak, to kind of help rebound faster. Because that could be that literally as I'm talking right now, I'm thinking about how both in probation and in coaching, we talk about like negative thinking patterns and how they don't go away. You just get better at replacing them. And now I feel like I'm eating my words because as I'm saying this, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what it is. You can't get rid of them. You just have to get better at kind of not dwelling in it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I have to say that in our profession, we are met with moments like that where, you know, you have to ask yourself, what would I tell a client? Sometimes it's so noisy up there that you can't really stop and think.
hmm
Um, Tell me of a moment where you recently felt exhilarated.
Um, oh, I have a friend who owns a gym. And she invited me to teach a group class, and that was so much fun. Like that was my favorite thing I think I've ever done. In probation, I facilitate a lot of groups too, and I love teaching. I love it. And so that was kind of like combining my love for teaching with my love for like health and fitness. And I had so much fun. It was great. It was the best for sure.
Were you contracted as part because of your business to do that?
Um, no, this was just kind of more of like a favor because it was her 10-year
Mhm.
anniversary. So she had some other teachers, group like fitness instructors come in too. So this was something that she kind of just had me come in. And it was after that, I know I let her know how much I enjoyed it. And if she ever needed like
Mhm.
more group classes, I'd be more than willing to kind of help with that. So that's something in the future that I'll probably be talking with her too about, which funny enough was one thing I really appreciate about this friend is she will reach out to me for things that I've always wanted to, but I just haven't done. Like I had full intentions of doing it spring. And, in my head, I was like, oh, I could do a summer class all summer. But then life happened and it just kind of got away from me. And it was like, I'll deal with it later. And then out of the blue, she kind of asked me about it. So she's always been, the opportunities that come from her have been great because they've always been on my mind, but then she's always taken the initiative to ask. And so it's just like, it's felt meant to be sometimes. Mhm.
What's your friend's name?
Danielle.
Danielle?
Hmm.
What would what would Danielle say if you did get to that point of being more confident, feeling exhilarated more often, having that perspective? What would Danielle say is different about you?
I don't know if it would be necessarily like different because I think when I see her, I think that's how I show up in the world for her, like because it's when I'm around her, it's always stuff that's related to kind of what I've been doing. And I'm very passionate about it and it comes out. So I don't know if it would be necessarily um, anything much different. I think she would probably be surprised to hear that it's like, you've been thinking about these things and you haven't said anything to me, more like, girl, what are you doing? I'm over here kind of, she's great like that. So, but I don't know if that answered your question.
Um, hmm. So are you saying that Danielle isn't aware that you question whether or not you're in the appropriate path, as you said earlier?
Oh yeah, I don't. It's not something I really talk about to many of my friends or I've shared it with my husband sometimes and he's never encouraged me to not continue to pursue it. It's more just kind of getting it off my chest, but it really isn't something that I share a lot.
Why is that?
I think it's just like again kind of being vulnerable, and not um like the good part of it, like I want to hold on to kind of that good part of it, not necessarily like speak about the bad part of it with my business, like the other thoughts that are going on. Because I also feel like if I talk about them, they're going to just like amplify them.
Hmm. Who's going to amplify them?
Probably me. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because even as I say that, I'm like, that's not what you teach. You know, you're taught to talk about them and share them. I don't know. It's just, I think like speaking about my disappointment feels like it makes it real.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that like I don't really want it to be real. Like I want to kind of live in this world where like, hey, everything's great, we're good, nothing like nothing to see here. Yeah,
So is your disappointment real?
probably not. I mean, like I think again, that's kind of why I don't necessarily want to talk about it that much, is just because it like I don't know if I don't know because I just I don't need accolades from people. And it's just I don't know. It probably isn't, you know.
But you brought it here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't know. And is it something where maybe I do talk about it with like more than I have been? I think there's a fear that like because I've put so much effort into kind of getting my over my imposter syndrome that it feels like sharing that is just I don't know, like reinforcing it. Um
Hmm.
that I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense. Like I'm trying so hard to not be that if
Mm-hmm.
I talk about it, then I'm back into that. Like it's like admitting that that exists still,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
That you haven't fully overcome the imposter
Hmm.
syndrome.
Hmm.
In the You said earlier, the negative thoughts don't ever go away.
Yeah.
Hmm. I just I bring it up because you one of the first things you talked about is gaining some perspective.
Hmm.
Um, and sometimes perspective, you can get perspective by talking to others or even looking at the issue through their lens. And that's the
Hmm.
beauty of coaching, friendship, and relationships that you that they can offer. Maybe they can offer that.
Hmm.
Um, because even in your role, I'm sure you do that for your clients and your um, in your full-time role, and I'm sure you do that for your
Hmm.
friends too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I do think sharing more probably would be like I appreciate that reframe too, because in my mind, sharing it means admitting to my failure, essentially, right? But I appreciate again, like that reframe of, well, sharing it might actually give you a perspective in which to reframe those negative thinking patterns, right? Like it might not be, they might not be sitting there like, yeah, Allison, wow. Like you're right. You definitely should be doing something different. Like I'm definitely not going to get that from my friends or my family. So yeah, it's funny what we tell ourselves and what we kind
Hmm.
of cling to for sure.
Yeah, and I mean you've had a very robust journey, right? And
Mhm.
in thinking through those and talking back to those voices and changing behaviors. So it's part of it. Um, so we are about 15 minutes from our end time, and I wanted to check in. How are you feeling? So I know that I've sort of you know, brought back some of the initial things we talked about, um, in terms of gaining perspective, um, finding exhilaration, being more confident and more vulnerable. What is maybe a thread that you want to continue following, or is there something from the conversation that it sparked and maybe you want to go down that path for the remainder of our time?
What did you say about the thread? Kind of
The,
what's the
yeah, so based on what we established earlier on about what you wanted to accomplish, right? We
Mhm,
talked, and I think one of the ways that I was looking at it was, not letting disappointment take over. That's sort of what struck me,
mhm,
as part of like what that overarching goal for a conversation can be. So we could, for the remainder of our time, we can talk about, um, that. Uh, we can continue down that path, or maybe something else in the conversation so far sparked something in you that you want to pursue instead.
mhm. Um, yes, we could talk about that. Like I feel like I kind of already swimming in this aha moment of, oh, I need to talk about it a little bit, like, okay, there's that. Um, but yes, we can certainly go down that, continue that path.
So this aha moment, what is it exactly?
That like I need to share about
Mhm.
these things too. And I need to share about it, but also like understand that sharing doesn't, I feel like part of it is sharing it too makes it real.
Mhm.
Right. And the reality is it's like it's real whether I share it or not. So I better just share it because then I can have, like you said, some perspective, but also um it's we tend to think if we talk about things that we're gonna like speak it into existence more. And I don't I don't believe that. So I don't know why that in my head is kind of what's happening here too. Um, so the aha moment really is just like it's okay to be disappointed and
Hmm.
it's okay to share that because that's the other reality of kind of this venture. It's not like from like a friend perspective or like an outside perspective. I think people are just like, wow, she's really doing great things all the time. And that sounds really okay, that sounds bad. But you know what I'm saying? Like people are
Mhm.
seeing my
Mhm.
passion and my like drive for it. So I think there's this like, wow, she's killing it. And it's like, hmm, I guess maybe not for my standards. So it'd
Mhm.
be like being able to talk about that and share about that, I think would hold the same value that when I've shared my experience with like what it was to, I don't know, change my disordered eating, that like that was helpful for people. So I think this also would be helpful for me and maybe even potentially helpful for someone else.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What do you think, the devil on your shoulder would say when you start sharing this with others?
Probably get a little smaller,
Hmm.
you know? I think it's like an accepting piece of it,
Mhm.
probably.
Who's accepting, you or the little devil on your shoulder?
No, me, and then that little guy's get a little smaller every time, you know?
Uh, I like that.
Um, like that's probably the next phase, like how I said, in 2023, 2024, I kind of sat in those thoughts a lot more. And then 2025, it's not so bad. Like I feel like that might be the next phase of like making that feeling smaller
Mhm.
is talking about it, not ignoring it.
Mhm. And you're gonna get uncomfortable because that's what the purpose of that little guy was,
Mhm.
to help you, be there again. I think you said in the
Mhm.
box, right?
Yeah.
So in those moments where you might long for that comfort and question, what would you tell yourself, or what would you tell um, that little devil's voice?
My initial thought is like to be comfortable isn't to grow.
Mm,
Like that's kind of, and I am comfortable, like I
mhm,
feel like I feel very secure in my full-time work. Like, I don't know. And you don't, it's the same when you start any job, you feel like a fish out of water because you don't really know what you're doing. And then all of a sudden a decade passes and you know things like the back of your hand that when new people come in, you're like, I do not know this, right? Like this is second nature to me. And it's the same thing. So I just have to remind myself that changing my identity and shifting into this new space, like I'm 2 or 3 years in, I didn't know what I was doing when I started my probation job 2 or 3 years in, like I do now. So it's kind of the same learning curve all over again,
mhm.
essentially, with some new skills. But you know what I'm saying? It's still like not used to it. I'm not going to know everything right away.
And when you get bogged down by the business aspect of your business, what are some things that you can remind yourself of, or even how can you make it easier on yourself to navigate?
I just think reminding myself of like the bigger picture, you know? Like I think in life we have like not everything is meant to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think like with anything we have parts of things that even when we really enjoy them, they're not the funnest thing to do. Um and I think it's the same for that. But the beauty of having my own business I've learned is like I can make it what I want to make it. So if I want to do more of the fun things, I can do more of the fun things,
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a lot of control over it versus um working for another entity. I don't have the same control. So I think reminding myself like I'm kind of in control of it too.
Mm-hmm.
And I had heard a quote a long time ago that your business is only going to grow as much as you're willing to be vulnerable. So
Mm.
I think about that too, where, hey, if I don't want to get out of my box for a little while, I can stay here and just live where I'm at and just be, accept maybe that things are going to stay the same for a while. And then look at stepping outside of my box, being vulnerable and growing a little bit more with my business. So I think having that flexibility in like I'm in control
Mm-hmm.
of what I do here, um, gives me peace of mind.
And then going back to those moments where um, you get an inquiry and you know it it what is it, they don't follow through, right?
Mhm.
Let me ask you a question. So when someone reaches out and you maybe have that discovery call with them, and there's a lot of hope and anticipation that you might be working together, I want you to think about the other person, the potential client.
Mhm.
What do you think they might be experiencing as they're deciding whether or not to follow up with you in their
Yeah.
minds?
Um, a number of things. Certainly, like number one, the financial
Mm-hmm.
commitment of it. Um, but I think also a reaching out takes courage,
Mm-hmm.
but actually meeting with me is a whole other thing because now you're sitting in front of somebody having a conversation. So I think that like adds additional vulnerability and courage on their part, but then also kind of pulling the trigger and like saying yes to something is just another level of it. So certainly, I think from all of the steps it takes and all the things that someone else is considering, like they have a lot on their plate too. And also the time commitment of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, there's a time commitment of it. There's also like, well, what if I can't fulfill the commitment piece of it. And now I'm like failing as well, So I think there are a number of things that could be going through that other person's mind too. Mhm.
So it's not you.
No, no. And that's something that for the most, I would say like 90% of my brain knows that. But then there's the 10% where, of course, when you start any business, it's like your social medias, you're bombarded with all of these business tips and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not, like I said, I don't know, my morals aren't to hound somebody if they don't want a product that I'm giving, right? Like I don't want that. Um, but then you have that, like they're doing what they're meant to do, right? These
Mm-hmm.
advertisements, they're meant to make you question if you're doing what you're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be doing and doing things right. So I think there's like the 10% of me that's questions, well, could I have said something different? Um, but see, I always have like a button there. It's like I think that, but then I also know too that once again, I'm new to this. Like if I didn't say something that I could have said differently, like that's another learning experience for myself too. So I try to keep that perspective in mind that um, every time I meet with a client or like a prospective client, I'll gain some knowledge from that, whether it's what not to do or what to do.
So, would you say that in this conversation so far, you've gained some perspective or perspectives?
Yeah, absolutely. Hmm.
Which one's the most powerful one?
I think mainly just to like talk about the good and the challenge, like the challenging things that I'm experiencing and not just to ignore it doesn't mean to ignore it isn't making it go away and to talk about it isn't gonna make it grow.
Mm-hmm. So, after our call, um, it doesn't have to be today or tomorrow. It can be next week, next month. But um, what step do you want to take as a result of this conversation?
I think just starting to share, like um it's like starting to have whole conversations that aren't missing a few of the challenges or the disappointments, but including those in all of the things. Um, because it's not all it's like it's not all that, but it's also not all good and all like super exciting stuff. So I think just having more of an honest conversation with close friends and family about kind of really what's going on and what challenges are happening.
And do you need to do something different to do that? Is it, um, like, I'm kind of throwing some things out there, but do you need
Mhm.
more privacy to talk to people, or do you need to meet with them in person? What are some of the conditions that you think might help for you to be for you to share more of that?
I mean, definitely in person, um, for sure. Fortunately, like I sit by a lot of my friends at work.
Nice.
So it's like having that conversation or like, we do lunches together. So I have a lot of opportunities to talk to people in person, which is good, but definitely probably in person versus short stints through like social media or
Hmm.
online or something like that. But
Do you know how you would broach the topic?
um I probably approach it the same way that I do when I talk about it in general, because I share good things, right? Or like
Hmm.
if I'm asked about it. Um, so it'd probably be it'd probably just be adding to what I'm already talking about, like nothing would really change significantly. It would just be adding the other side of the conversation to it too.
Do you feel like you have some, um, I don't want to say direction, but some idea of like how you'd start and um, and what you'll do?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely do.
That's
Mhm.
wonderful. So we're at the end of our time together. Time flies. Allyson, is there anything else that you wanted me to ask, but I didn't? Maybe a question that could help round out this conversation, or any other comment that you'd like to include in our session?
No, I don't think so. This was very insightful, and I really appreciate your time because it was super helpful.
Thank you. Thank you, Allyson, for sharing with us. I appreciated how honestly Allyson explored her discomfort and how she was able to tap into her inner wisdom as a coach to plot her next steps. And I have a special announcement. This episode marks the final guest coaching session of season 1. Tune in for the finale next time to listen in on a coaching session with me as a coachee. I'm so excited because my friend Suzanne, who is an amazing coach, will be coaching me on the podcast. And while I hope to talk about my why for the podcast and what I've learned along the way, knowing Suzanne, I just know that it'll be a highly robust session that will likely uncover more than I can even imagine right now. Thank you for listening. Until next time.